Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Francisco Estevez.
And I'm Colton West.
And we are both dancers turned professional dance photographers. And today we're gonna do some critiques, some photo critiques of our past work.
And just a disclaimer, none of the critiques that we have today are about the subjects of our photos. This is just a reflection on some of our past work, some things that we like, some things that we feel like we could have improved on, and maybe some memories associated with the photos. So this photo is actually the first photo that I ever took with an off-camera flash. I remember I ordered it on Amazon with a light stand and then a giant octabox. The second I got it, I went to the studio in Oregon where I was still dancing professionally. And I set it up and called my friend Isaac and I was like, hey, do you want to come take some photos? He actually still uses them now.
Yeah, they're good.
Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some things I like about it, I think I did pretty okay considering I had no clue what I was doing. I'm glad I put the light on that side of him and on the other side of him. So
yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't think about when I was first starting out. I was like, lights, put them on either side. But I wasn't so conscious about where the subject was facing and how that was going to affect the way that the image looked. So yeah, that was a good coincidence there.
Yeah, it was a good accident. Some things I'm not a big fan of about this photo is the way I cropped it.
Well, I think you have a ceiling there.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
If I were to go back and re-edit it, I probably would just center him a little bit more. Overall composition could be improved. And maybe if I was being really picky, I would have asked him to pick up his right leg a little bit more so I could see his foot above his knee. But
that's one of the things that caught my eye to start. More than the composition itself, it was the fact that we lose his right toe a little bit there. We do this pose a lot now, but we usually do it with the hook over the front.
Yeah.
I think precisely for that reason, but it works well. It works well like this, honestly. It's its own pose. It's just maybe not something that now both of us would go to as the first or final product.
And I could have even had him switch his legs, and that would have solved the problem too.
This is a photo I took 10 years ago now. So I started photography mostly in the performance photography area of dance photography, and then when I moved to Denver, I wanted to make it more a business, get gear, and so there was a need to get some revenue to be able to afford all that stuff. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And so I started offering audition photos. And this was one of my first ones, and this is a dancer, her name's Anissa, and she's super talented. The pose itself is actually pretty good, but the lights in this, the way that I've lit it is really, it works for an audition photo, but it's not my best work in terms of what we do now. It's very flat. I can tell that I've lit it from very far away. So I haven't put the lights in close. I haven't feathered lights like we do now in the studio. It's pointed directly at her, which is what's causing some of the shadows that I've tried to edit out in the background. But the other thing that I would change about it is that her legs, even though they're really long, they look a little bit shorter, especially in the front. So I would have had her cross that foot a little bit more just to keep that length. Because the minute that any limb goes away from the sensor in your camera, it starts getting a little bit shorter.
The only thing that I noticed is it would be nice to be able to see her face a little bit. Maybe she could have just angled her shoulders slightly or brought her head through.
Well, what we do now also, if you can see, her elbows are hyperextended a little bit, and what we tend to do with this pose now is try and round those elbows and turn them a little bit so it creates almost a frame around her face. So it's good, but we've definitely fine-tuned those things and refined that further.
But it's not bad at all. I think if we delivered this to someone now, they'd still be very happy.
Yes, I'd be very happy if that looked like, if that's what I looked like. So.
I never looked that good. So a lot of things to say about this one. I think when I had more than one light, I think I kind of went crazy and I got really excited because there are a lot of things that you can do when you have more than one light. And I was playing around with gels a lot at this time. These two dancers, Yuki and Hiro, are probably some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. Let me start with some things that I like first.
Yeah,
I think the pose is cool. I think they accomplished it very well. There are some things that maybe I could tweak about the pose that would have made it slightly better. Her knee is sort of pointing towards away from the camera. And I think if I had flattened that out, that might just be slightly more appealing. I think there are more things that I like about this photo than things that I don't like. I think the colors look cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. You like moody.
I like moody. I like darker photos. I think this photo is maybe on the line of maybe being too dark. If I were to do something like this now, I probably would add another light in the front, so that way maybe you could just see a little bit of their face.
And you're getting into the realm of creativity, right?
Yeah.
Creative choice and license, so.
Absolutely.
You could do that, but this also speaks well on its own.
Yeah, yeah, it works. Like it's not terrible. Some things that I think are like egregious mistakes that I wouldn't do now. I think I had the lights pointing diagonally right towards the camera, so I get these like really bad flares. If I were to like deliver this to someone, I think they ask me to remove the weird spots on the photo.
I know you probably saw that and you were like, that's cool.
Yeah, I think I
That's what
I saw it. I was like, that's cool, and also I don't know how to fix it. So I think the watermark is a huge mistake. I don't think it's necessary.
I think we all went through like watermark all your photos face. The only two things that I mean, I think like creatively, like even the flare, I don't mind as a photographer. Like you said, maybe a client would have been like, what is that? Yeah, and I totally get that. We've gotten requests like that before. And then you mentioned the knee thing, which I would have maybe turned in, so you get a little sliver of like negative space there. Yeah. And then the only other thing is actually her hair. So I would have put the hair on the back so you could see some of her neck, but that's really it. Yeah. And again, those are details. It's more just to make it a little bit more cleaner. Yeah. Right? Because when you get a lot of, this pose is good, it works, you have negative space there, but the more negative space that you get in a pose, that's what we really go for at the studio, is trying to figure out where we can create air. And all those pockets of air that you can find in all the poses is what really makes something look really clean.
And it's just that like little attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. This is a photo of a friend of mine who used to be at Colorado Ballet. Her name's Fernanda. This was actually in one of my first studios. So before I didn't have a studio, so I would like bring all my equipment and set up, right? So this was exciting because it was at my first actual physical location studio, which is actually like not even a block away from this studio. But the ceilings were super low. I'd like stalked a bunch of my like favorite photographers, and everybody was using like just one light off to the side, and it was a small one. So I like copied that because I wanted to recreate that. And I was always really upset because I couldn't recreate that light on the background. What I kind of like about this photo is that sort of, I was able to like really master that one light sort of look, even with a small modifier. It really challenged me, the space, challenged me to be able to use that in an efficient way. What I don't like about it is that, first of all, I did only use one light. So the bottom of her pose is really dark. And then you have a really big highlight on her. So there's a hot spot because also it wasn't feathered. So it's like putting the light right here, all of it. So you get really bright spots on her. And then the other thing too is there's like a big dark line across the back because I had her really forward on the background. And so just the background in general could be a lot more clean. And right now I could reprocess that with our actions and fix it, but it would be a lot more of a painting and reconstructing a fake background rather than like trying to get it as close as possible in camera. And then just doing some tweaks with our actions later on.
I mean, I think similar, like even if you wanted to use that one light setup, maybe you could have put a V flat or something behind her to reflect some of that light, just to give a little bit of fill on the back of her body. And then like, maybe that would help see like the definition in her hair, like where the back of her head ends. But overall, I don't think it's bad at all. So this photo, I'm actually super happy about. This is when I sort of moved away from doing studio photography just because I didn't have the ability to do studio photography. This was taken in the pandemic. This is in Toronto with a very talented dancer named Julia. And there are a lot of things that I really, really like about this photo. I think the composition works. This is taken in like a sculpture. I sort of was spending a lot of time during this period of my photography, like really tweaking colors. I had a lot of fun doing that. And so I think I did a really good job post-processing this. I think it has a very, like, in my opinion, like editorial, maybe like—
could be in a magazine.
Yeah, magazine sort of look, and I think that's what I was going for. She was really great to work with. I didn't really have to work too hard with posing, which was nice for me at the time because I didn't have a lot of experience doing that. So it was really nice to sort of let her take the lead. And I just had to worry about the technical aspect of photography.
And this would have been tricky because all that red. So you probably did a little bit of work on—
Yes. Yeah, and she still does have like a little bit of red in her skin. One thing that was really difficult about editing this is that it's reflective. And so I like spent a lot of time like content aware deleting and clone stamping and trying to get it as clean as possible. I'm overall pretty happy with this.
Yeah, it's really great.
I think I enjoy getting outside and like doing more location stuff.
Denver's so great for outdoor stuff. I wish we got out a little bit more. So if you're a dancer in Denver and want to do more stuff, contact us because we'd love to get outside. So I love that this white reflection here is almost symmetrical to what she's doing on the other side.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Completely on purpose.
Totally on purpose. Yeah. one of those little happy accidents. And then the only other thing that spoke to me was that if her foot could have just been like on the other side of that middle.
Oh yeah, that's not what I thought you were gonna say.
What were you?
I thought you were gonna talk about how one sleeve is rolled up
Oh
and the
no,
other
I didn't
isn't.
notice that.
Because that's,
No.
I don't think it really
No.
matters.
And again, that's just because we're like super like fine-tooth comb. This was from a year ago, so hopefully I don't dislike too much about it. This is of a current soloist at Colorado Valley. Her name's Jessica. She's super talented, super great to work with. This was a shoot that we did after we developed our actions for editing the background. We'd gotten into gels. And this one, I think we got a little bit more directional light. So there's a little bit more contrast going across her body. And we also have 2 rim lights with, I think either a red or either a purple gel. And what we really like about our workflow now is that we can sort of figure out what our lighting wants to be so that we can do a lot of post-processing on these images. For example, this image actually, the background is completely done in Lightroom. So there's a gradient on one side and a gradient going the other way, and the AI has deleted the subject. Because we've gelled it and only pointed it at her, we're able to get a gel image with the background looking like it's also gelled, and we can also take that away and have a versatile photo that can be used for different types of things, branding, etc. So this is my favorite version of this photo, but it has a lot of room to go from
Yeah, I think this is like a more tasteful, toned down version of what I was trying to do with the gels of my second photo I showed. I don't really have much to say. I think it's a really, really solid photo. It's really pretty.
Yeah.
Maybe just the hair in the face.
Yeah, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because there's versions of this photo without that.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the fact that the hair goes down the middle and you can still see her eye.
Yeah.
So like, again, totally on purpose.
All right, so this is my last photo. This is from a recent shoot that I did with my fiance. Her name's Arena. She's an amazing dancer. I chose this photo because I feel like it shows a lot of growth, and I've taken so many photos of Arena over the past 6 years that we've been together. And I think this last shoot that we did was probably some of my favorites. Something that I really think I've learned working with you and working at Candidly Created is just taking your time. I think when I first started taking photos of people, I was just so conscious of like not wanting to waste their time. So I'd be like, you know, do a pose, I'd get a photo, it'd be okay. And I'd be like, oh, let's just move on. That way we could, you know, I don't want to waste your time. I think we worked on this pose for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. It almost looks like an optical illusion because her lower body's going one way and her upper body's going another.
Yeah, and I like that opposition, that movement.
Yeah.
It's very much upright, right? The pose itself is like vertical, and you'd think it'd be static, but it actually translates a lot of the movement because you've done that twist.
Overall, I'm really happy with it, and I think it's just like taking the time to not finish with something until you're really happy with it.
We did a shoot right before we filmed this video with a dancer who was running a little late and only had like an hour before she needed to head out. And I was like trying to look at the time and see how long it actually took me to get through one pose with her. Each pose was taking around 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes. So taking 10 is actually, you know, on par with that. You were actually working pretty fast. But don't be afraid to spend a little more time. You don't have to think about going, you know, 1 minute here, 2 minutes there, you should be able to get it. It takes a little bit of time. A fast pose is gonna take you 5-6 minutes. You know, if you're taking your time, it can take double that amount of time. So once you've gone through that process of figuring out what that pose looks like, then it becomes ingrained in you, and then the next time you have these shortcuts, right? You know exactly where to start that pose with the next person. And so then that 10-minute pose becomes a 7-minute pose. And this one I just love. So there's not much I want to say about this except for that it's really emblematic of the fact that sort of where I started with that photo that I showed you 10 years ago, which wasn't bad, but I've developed and been able to sort of figure out how to really maximize the use of our studio lighting to create something that's this creative. Because it's not just backlit, right? It is backlit. This is Jessica again, by the way. But like even like the detail here in her foot, you know, like where her foot's crossing, like that was planned because some of them would be lower, some of them would be higher, some of them would be more crossed, less crossed. But this is a perfect balance to create that shape. Everything about this photo, it looks effortless, but everything was thought through. And the lighting really complements exactly what we're going for. And this is part of our fine art series. What we're trying to go for with our fine art series is we do dance photography, but it's really awkward to sell something to someone of a random person they don't know. So what we're trying to do is create more of an entire, we're selling a feeling with the photograph rather than the person. I couldn't have done that back 10 years ago. I don't think I would have done this if he hadn't been a photographer that liked more moody stuff. So, I always like to do front light, get more contrast, but still see the person. So this was going out on a limb for me, and I really like the results. So.
I really like just the subtle highlights on the muscle in her legs. I think that looks really good. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's a great image.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our critique of our own work. We can keep doing this with our own images, but we'd much rather help you guys develop your craft. So if you would like us to do a photo critique on some of your work, make sure to DM us with that, and we'll keep that open for a few weeks and see how many we get in, and then we'll try and do a video with sort of the same focus, but on your work, and hopefully that's helpful as well.
Yeah, and if you want to see how we captured some of these photos, check out, we have 2 behind the scenes videos that I think are really good educational tools, and they're also pretty entertaining.
Hope you enjoyed it today, and we'll see you next time.
Wait.